the live photo that spoke back. The photograph looked innocent until it moved. I was scrolling through Leela's camera roll for a picture of our dog to send my mother, the kind of domestic errand that feels like proof of civilization, when my thumb lingered too long and the image breathed. Apple's little magic trick. A live photo. 1 second backward, 1 second forward, a trapdoor under a snapshot. The frame was simple. Leela at a cafe, cup near her mouth, hair tucked, eyes amused at something just off camera. It had the gloss of a good day. Then the sound came with the movement, soft and unintended. A man's voice, close enough to be private. He said, "Don't look at me like that, Myra. My name is not Myra. Leela's name is not Myra." She smiled in the frame and dipped her head like someone accepting a compliment she knows she shouldn't. In the final flicker, his hand entered the edge and brushed a crumb from the corner of her mouth, as if it were permission disguised as etiquette. I didn't mean to listen again, but once you hear a sentence that changes the room's temperature, you put your hand on the thermostat and keep twisting. "Don't look at me like that, Myra." The consonants were careful, the tone rehearsed. The cafe's clatter covered the rest, the world too polite to eavesdrop on itself. Leela came out of the bathroom drying her hands on my t-shirt like she pays rent there. "Find one where he doesn't look like an eel," she asked, meaning the dog. The dog looks like Joy with eyebrows. An eel had never crossed his mind. "I found something," I said, and turned the phone so she could see her own face blinking in a loop. She watched the movement, still and intelligent. She listened once. She listened again. She put her thumb on the screen and paused the world at the exact frame where she looks most like herself. "That's a good picture," she said softly, and then, "You heard it." "I heard it," I said. "Who calls you Myra?" "No one," she said, which was technically true, the way a person is technically alone at a party if they're in the bathroom when the toast happens. "It's a joke from class, Myra, as in look, in Spanish. The kids make fun of me for saying it when I want them to pay attention." I let the lie hover, neither rescuing it nor pushing it off the ledge. "And the hand." "The hand is the dangerous part," she said, and sat down on the edge of the bed with the kind of control actors use when they want to prove they aren't crying. "I shouldn't have saved the photo," she added, not looking at me. "But I liked how I look in the second before I decide to be worse than I want to be." "Who is he, the old right?" "Julian," she said. "We don't get to choose our villains. Sometimes you recycle." I nodded because names shouldn't make a scene every time they show up. "When?" "2 months ago," she said. "A grant committee. He needed a sentence that sounded like it had lived a real life. I wrote it. He said I looked like someone who knew where words keep their teeth. He calls me Myra because he's a man who prefers details that make him seem attentive." "Did you kiss him at the cafe? I heard the meanness in it on the way out." "No," she said, and then, "because honesty has a flair for entrances when invited. Not there." The live photo hummed on the nightstand, a moth at a lamp. The man's voice repeated the intimacy in a loop until I clicked the icon and made it go still. "You could have told me," I said without accusation, and hated myself for how gentle it sounded. "I should have told you before it became a live photo," she said. "Before it became a room with a name. I thought it would be easier to confess if I did not have to say, I liked it. I liked feeling like I was worth a secret." The day that followed performed normalcy with the professionalism of a long-running show. I answered emails that made promises to other emails. Leela grated in the armchair and hummed when a student surprised her with a sentence. Our dog did his rounds like a small, benevolent inspector. At 4, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "If you're going to pick at a wound, do it gently. The cafe is called Loom. 3rd and Alder. Talk to Anna." I stood by the sink and stared at the message while the memory of Myra tried on meanings. I didn't respond. I put on a jacket. Leela looked up at me and a tiny panic flickered in her eyes, usually reserved for forgetting a name mid-introduction. "Where?" she asked. "Grocery," I lied, and the lie landed badly between us and made a small sound we both heard. Loom is the kind of place built for people who want their coffee to have a biography. The barista was a woman with hair shaved on one side and tenderness for ceramic. When I asked for Anna, she pointed to the woman clearing table 6. Anna had the posture of someone who had spent a long time being told things by people who shouldn't have told her. "You're the man from the live photo," she said when I stammered my introduction. "The dog is an eel. You're forgiven for being obvious." She set down the tray. "He calls most women a name that isn't theirs," she said without prompting. "He thinks it makes intimacy portable." "Julian," I said, tasting it like a sour candy. She nodded. "He tries lines in front of the plants. When the leaves don't tremble, he saves them for people." "I don't need a dossier," I said, more sharply than I meant. "I need a next step." Anna folded a napkin into something that looked like an earnest bird. "Do you want spectacle or intimacy?" she asked. And I realized the world is full of Maras if you're honest enough to be recognizable. "If you want spectacle, come here at 6 on Thursday, watch him try on another mistake, and make a speech. If you want intimacy, go home and listen to the piece of your life that's telling you it wants a different tempo." "What would you choose?" I asked. "I'd choose a seat where I can see both exits," she said. "But I'm a coward with excellent boundaries." On my way out, she called after me, "Tell her to check the next live photo. There's another half second." Back home, Leela was still in the armchair, a pencil behind her ear like a crown for the working. I tossed a bag of groceries on the counter because I was unwilling to fail at my lie completely. "Anna says to check the next picture," I said, and brought the phone. We watched the next one together. A different angle, the same table, the little motion. This time a different sliver of sound. Leela's voice, soft, almost a whisper, "Say my name correctly." The words held a strength that made my chest lighten. In the second after, the frame captured the beginning of her shaking her head no. It was a good second. "I told him to stop," she said. "I told him I wanted to go home. I told him I don't want to be a person with two names. I saved that one so I would remember I am not obedient to the part of me that likes stage lighting." "I believe you," I said, surprised to find it was true. In the quiet that followed, the dog climbed onto the couch and sighed like an old marriage. Leela looked at me the way you look at someone when you're scared of their grace. "I don't want to keep rehearsing apologies," she said. "I want to decide what we are doing instead." "Okay," I said. "Then let's make a list, but not like a punishment, like a menu." We wrote our plans with black ink and patience. Wednesday, go nowhere fancy together on purpose. Make it ours with a joke. Thursday, practice saying each other's names in ways neither of us has heard. Friday, pick an object in the apartment and tell the other a story it remembers that we have forgotten. Saturday, be specific with our bodies and lazy with our pride. Sunday, read one paragraph aloud and listen like we've never heard English before. It wasn't a contract. It was a cursive path across a week. On Thursday, before we could make our dinner, my phone chimed with a calendar invite that wasn't mine. "Walk through. 6 p.m. Loom," it read, and the guest list was all the usual nouns that orbit people like Julian. I stared at it, and then I did something new. I forwarded it to myself and declined without comment. Then I put the phone face down on the counter and pressed my thumbs into Leela's shoulders until I felt the breath exit in a length that told me the day had been refusing to let go of her. At dinner, we practiced names like music. Leela said mine like it was a password to a door she liked. I said hers like it was the answer to a question no one else had asked properly. We kissed in the kitchen not like teenagers or like a couple on a magazine cover performing breakfast, but like two people who had decided to be amateurs again at each other. I won't pretend the body is not part of this story. It is the part I will not put on parade. What I will say, specificity is erotic. The way she places my hand when she wants the pace to adjust. The way I tell her, out loud, the exact moment I feel the tide rising. The way we laugh when a sock refuses to come off, and how the laugh changes when it does. The way she pauses to look right at me, which is not an interruption but an intensifier. We gave each other what we asked for and a little extra. YouTube would approve of our discretion, even if our breath would not. After, we lay on our backs like two people who trust the ceiling not to cave. Leela touched the inside of my wrist and said, "I'm not pure." I didn't apply, I said. I don't need a saint. I need the person who can say my name 3 different ways and mean 3 different mercies. I want to leave that cafe in my past in a way that feels like a door closed on purpose, she said. Then close it, I said, with a sound we both recognize. The next afternoon, I went to loom alone at the hour when light makes everyone gorgeous and unflattered. Anna lifted her eyes in a question. I shook my head. "No speeches," I said. "Just a coffee to pay for an education." Outside, I texted Julian for the first and last time. "Stop practicing on my life," I wrote. "You look less interesting in the reflection of our windows." He replied fast, as if he thrives on the oxygen of recognition. "You mistake art for theft." "Not anymore," I wrote and blocked the number. I don't know if that counts as intimacy or spectacle. I do know I felt my lungs work better after. A week later, we were in bed reading separate things aloud to each other like people in a painting who don't know they're being observed, when the dog barked at the door and a paper envelope slid beneath. There was no return address, just our names in careful, unfamiliar script. Inside, a printed photo of Leela at Loom, the same one, and beneath it a note. "Live photo off. Choose silence when you can. A." "Anna?" Leela asked. "Or a benevolent ghost," I said. "Either way, the advice is right." We taped the still photo to the fridge with the whale magnet. It's not a warning. It's a relic, the moment just before she said no, preserved without the temptation to replay the almost. Sometimes I catch her looking at it the way people look at a house they don't live in anymore and feel both regret and relief. Then she looks at me, and the second changes meaning. We kept our list on the cork board and added foolish items because foolishness is the enemy of shame. Eat oranges in the shower. Take the long way home even indoors. Call each other from different rooms just to hear how the apartment handles our voices. Make the bed badly and love it anyway. When boredom came to check the locks, we opened the door and showed it our ridiculousness and asked it to sit for a while and see if it could be transformed into comfort. Sometimes the live photo ghosts tap at the glass. Out of nowhere, my hand will hover over a door handle, and I'll think of the way his hand drifted into the frame. Leela will put a finger under my chin and tilt my face toward the present. Or she will look far away in a grocery aisle and I will say her name once, twice, 3 times, each time a different key, and watch her return like tide. We are not finished. We are not molding ourselves into a moral for anyone else's use. We are what we've chosen since the picture spoke, answerable, specific, occasionally ridiculous, daily brave. When the dog jumps on the bed at 2:17 a.m. and the room turns into a small democracy, I hold Leela's calf like a handle and she puts her palm on my chest like a yes. In the morning, our phones show us frozen things. We prefer what moves on purpose. We prefer voices used to say names correctly. We prefer the kind of silence you arrive at together after the laughter subsides, when the ceiling is patient and the world outside is very far away.